This is my voice because I went too hard in LAX, specifically the airport.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait,
city.
what? You went hard in the airport? What'd you do?
I got super wasted before Jerry picked me up.
I think there's another
JK.
episode that you came in real sick sounding.
Yeah. Well, that was allergies.
Me?
Yeah.
In the
That's an allergy.
same voice.
That was an allergy.
Fun.
It's okay. Hey, I was sick for the R acceptance thing. I noticed my voice
We got to
was
talk
very
about
raspy.
that so I can talk about my experience.
Yeah. Watching us.
I got some thoughts.
Okay.
I got some critiques.
Oh, yeah. Let me guess. My speech. Okay.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. We are live here in episode 68. Although I know we're not doing episode numbers, it is 68. We had just confirmed it. So I am your host, Nathan Nowak, along with raspy, sexy voice KJ and Patrick, the Dictator Armstrong.
Oh, SVK. Sexy
I don't know
voice
that I would
KJ.
call this sexy at all. Also, I wouldn't say that we're live because sometimes we are actually live.
That's a good point. We are
It's just
live.
a regular podcast, everyone.
We are live for us, I guess. For you guys, you might not be live.
We are alive.
We are live. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we are live. We are a podcast. We
What
are
does
3
Janchi
Korean
mean?
Americans. I was going to say that to you. Dang it.
Speech to it. What's it mean?
Janchi, feast and celebrate. And actually, we confirmed that's how everyone else sees it too, is we are feasting and celebrating some food at the end of our show occasionally. And then we are also celebrating our Korean adoption heritage. And
Wait, what do you
where
mean
did you-
we confirmed
Like,
that that's how everyone sees
Well,
it?
My
So-
question exactly.
Okay, so during which is what we're going to talk about here in a second. We were in LA. We recently were there for to receive an award, and while we were there, we were discussing with some of the other Korean Americans among us, and we mentioned about Janchi, and they were asking about how it, where it came from, and she explained. She said, "Oh, feast," and she actually said "feast" and
Nice.
celebrate. So she confirmed it.
That makes me feel
that I
really
didn't
good, to be
that I
honest.
didn't have to explain what it meant, and then I explained, like Doljan cheese, and that's kind of where I had originally at first heard it, and but the fact that she had said, "Yeah, feast and celebrate," and I was like, "Sweet." We're not completely making it up.
We weren't confirmed so much as just validated.
Sure,
Validated.
Yes.
Affirmed,
Yeah.
maybe.
Good
yeah,
point.
that we picked the right word.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt that Jerry would have let us go 2 or a year plus with just ill-defining or incorrectly
Sure.
defining it.
Yeah, when you have a Korean American executive producer and a Korean American graphic designer, I feel like there should be some checks in there
yeah.
about
Yeah.
like, hey, are
The
you
re-
using our language correctly?
The red flag should have went up before this even started.
Real early.
She also affirmed that though she said it a little tad differently, she says it the way Jerry says it, where we say it, Janchi. Well, yeah, it was different.
No, yeah, she said like Janchi.
Janchi.
And I was like, what?
It was
a
much
weird, a surprising dialect.
softer way of saying it, I thought.
I feel like
So-
most people pronounce it Janchi when like that's the most incorrect or the
Is most
most
people
common
your
incorrect
parents?
pronunciation. No, I feel like when I feel maybe it's an Indiana thing. Actually, now that I think about it, I feel like maybe it's where I've heard it mostly. But I was like, oh, the Janchi Show, and I'm like,
Well, I know I
wasn't
can't
for a
bring it
bunch
up.
of people.
I can't bring it up via voice Siri or Amazon Alexa. I can't bring it up and say, "Hey, play the Janchi Show." It doesn't understand what I'm saying.
It's because all that stuff was programmed by white people.
This podcast brought to you by white people.
That's real sad.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is this award? No, not white people. We talk about them too much. We recently won an award from the Korean American Federation of Los Angeles. One of the, is it the oldest Korean American association at least in California, or is it one of the, or is that not right? I can't
I have
remember.
no idea.
I
feel
would
like
say
James
it's
talked about it.
at least one of the oldest. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been around since I think it was 62.
It's whatever 2021 minus 59 is. That's how old it
They
is.
were having their 59th
right.
gala. So yes,
So figure out its birthday from there.
62. So that's a long time.
Yeah, it was the Media and Arts Award, and we were lucky enough.
Wait, that's Media and Arts Award.
What did I say?
It sounded like Media and Arts.
Oh yeah, well it is medium.
Like
medium.
No,
arts.
Median is what it sounded like you said.
Oh,
like
right.
That,
the middle.
That strip of grass between the two sides of the highway.
No, I meant medium arts, like for like psychics and stuff.
No.
Oh.
It's just like, it's not excellent and it's not poor. It's medium.
Yeah, it's
It's
middle
an
of
art
the road.
form.
Lukewarm.
But we got the chance to fly out and accept the award. I'm having trouble speaking. Accept
I also
the award.
like that you said we got the chance, says the one person who didn't have the chance.
Clearly, a picture was posted, and we were all dressed up in our
Exactly.
suits.
We were all there.
And I was there as well.
He had a beer in his hand, but he was there.
I don't want to give away my experience yet, but what was it like to fly back out initially? I know you got there before me, and meet up again for the second time now in person. Nathan.
It was good. I was very excited to see KJ and Patrick's spirit and Jerry.
I love seeing Patrick's spirit.
That's what they all say.
But no, it was fun. It was a quick trip. I mean, the fact that I was only there for 24 hours. Came in, we had lunch, went straight to a Korean restaurant, had some awesome soup, which I don't even remember the name of.
You had yukgaejang,
Yukgaejang. Okay.
right?
That was
Wasn't it like
that's
spicy
the
beef
same
soup?
thing you had, yeah.
Yeah, yukgaejang.
Ah, it was so good. Sorry, Patrick.
Totally was great. I had
That's
some
great,
too.
right?
Yeah, your nose was sweating up a storm.
Yeah, classic. Patrick was sweaty.
And that was a good start. And then went to the hotel that was hosting the event, so we were ready
To Janchi.
get dressed and then head straight down to the thing when we were ready. So we took a little breather before the gala, but yeah, it was nice to be back for sure.
That's the stage, KJ. What was it like when? Was it all set up when you got to the hotel, or was it like you got to the hotel, you guys got dressed, and went down into? Was it at the gala? Was at the hotel, right?
Yeah. So, by the time we got down to the event space, or I guess up to the event space, I don't know. Like, I've not really been to that many galas, especially not many galas on like the 15th floor, where that's like where they're, hosting events in a hotel. I talk good. But like, what was crazy was when we got in there, everyone was talking in Korean, and like, I knew that there would be a lot of first gen Korean Americans there. And I expected there to be like a fair amount of Korean, but not like exclusively Korean. And so we got there and I was like, oh no, I am way out of my depth. And I don't know how to schmooze I can barely do it in English, but I definitely can't do it in Korean. And also, like the people there, are like deeply LA, whether it's like LA city officials or, whomever, like LA businesses, all those things. So I'm like, there's not really a point for me to go network per se, because like I don't live anywhere near here. I don't come out here that often. So it was just kind of a weird experience, but also so cool to hear all of that. And I remember distinctly texting Sarah and just being like, I might as well be in Korea. Like, once I landed on this floor, just transported to like, this is Korea, and like just all of it. So that was cool.
It was there was like an appetizer like cocktail hour before the actual event space opened. So we were all just hanging out in a smaller area. They had a photographer in front of us, step and repeat, and we could take photos. And then we
just dropping that
What is
photographer
that?
knowledge.
Yeah, what does that mean?
step
What
and
a flex.
It's a
Weird
term.
flexes.
It's
Nathan's
I've
weird
shot many
flexes.
galas.
It's
at
a
hotels.
background that has the logos of the hosting company and typically the sponsors as well.
Sorry, I'm not a famous gala
And
goer,
so-
Nathan.
I
didn't know what that
professional
was.
photographer, Nathan.
Yeah, I would have said that's a wall.
I would have called it a backdrop.
Yes, it's a
funny.
sponsor backdrop.
What was your favorite
So-
app? Was it Korean food or was it hotel food?
No, so that was surprising. Actually, I actually was expecting at least something
It's
Korean
serious.
as far as the food, and there wasn't. It was all standard banquet style food for, appetizers, crab cakes,
Tuna inside of a rolled
tuna
up
poke.
waffle cone.
Yeah, I mean,
Weird.
yeah, it was good. Everything was tasty that we had, and steak and shrimp for the dinner. But
The old S&S. I like it.
The classic surf and
Yes.
turf.
Classic surf. Is that surf and turf?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
what that is?
That's
I don't
surf
know.
and turf.
And any seafood, or I would
Classic.
say lobster, but
Yeah, I'm talking like
Yeah.
eel plus chicken,
Mhm.
surf and turf. Talking
Classic.
oyster plus
I have
turkey.
never
Classic
seen a
turf.
surf and turf that was an eel and a chicken. So
No,
I'm gonna have to.
You never had the old
Yeah,
E&C?
just because you
Sorry.
haven't had it doesn't mean it doesn't still fall under the umbrella of surf and turf.
Yeah, any seafood, whatever.
I don't
what was
know
it?
about that
Land
one. I
combination.
don't know if I'm gonna agree to
I'm
that one.
talking
Land
seafood.
combination.
I'm talking seaweed and kale. Classic surf and turf salad.
Classic vegan.
Mm.
Classic vegan turf.
Yeah, clams and rabbit. Yeah.
Classic surf and turf.
So before we get to what it was like to go up and accept this award, what was it like?
Wait, no, Patrick. What was your experience walking into
Well,
that
because
place?
it was so, I was just so overwhelmed by what was happening. I blacked out. I just don't remember anything from the moment.
Patrick heard
from
two
when
words,
I got off the
open
plane.
bar, and then he
was
lost
gone.
it.
Yeah.
He was gone.
You never saw him
That
again.
is a known thing for me. I don't know if I like that. Yeah, that was my experience. I was blacked out. Don't know what happened. Don't remember.
Yikes.
And that's why we're doing this episode, to get me filled back in.
We do not recommend doing that in your life.
Yeah, no, that's not an endorsement of blacking out. But anyways, so before you went up and accepted your award, ours was like a certain place in the agenda. What was it like hearing other people go up and accept their awards and kind of give their speeches before you knew you had to go up and give yours? What were some of the other awards that maybe caught your eye?
Yeah, so I think so. You can actually go onto YouTube and search KAFLA TV and like watch the event. It's long, so scrub through. But actually, the night opened with a traditional drum performance by Hwarang, which is like the Korean American Youth Leaders Association type thing. I don't know. It's Korean Americans who are like primed to be the next leaders of, whatever. And I don't know what it was, but I got really emotional. I think just experiencing that, especially like these are the kinds of drums that I've only seen. I don't know, like I've seen them depicted like they're the big drums that play at the end of Mulan, or like they're the drums like not kabuki, but if you see them, like I've seen them represented in Chinese and Japanese culture, and then like I've not seen it in Korean, but they had like headbands and they had hanboks on and they played these big old drums, and I don't know, I was just like really moved to see that, because for me, experiencing that for the first time, it was really profound in a Korean American space, even though for many of the attendees there, they would have been just like, oh yeah, that's cool, whatever, it's our drums, but it was cool to see that. And then they played along to Dynamite by BTS, and again,
Nice.
like got emotional because like there was no more clear representation of blending Korean and American culture than having Korean Americans playing traditional Korean drums and a Korean pop group singing mostly in English.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that just really made a huge impression on me. And then the MCs spoke in Korean and English. So I didn't know that there was going to be translation. So when the first MC launched in with Korean, I was like, oh no, I'm not going to know anything that's happening. And then I was like, okay, there's English happening. Yeah, and then hearing the awards, I think it was really cool. The one that made the most impression on me was Connie Chung-jo. She was incredible and so passionate and eloquent, and really informed, I think, a lot of what I was going to say after, because we were right after her. And I was like, I'm glad she went first so that I know what I'm going to say, because also we talked about it beforehand and we were like, none of us know what we're getting ourselves into, so we don't even know what to say besides thank you, really. So that was like mildly terrifying, I think, especially for Nathan. But
I was like, this entire time prior to the gala, I was like thinking in my head, okay, what should I say? How should I say it? Which part should I say? Which part should I leave for KJ and Jerry to say? And I was like, to the point where, I mean, granted, there was 3 of us, so I didn't really think, I need to write it down. Like if I was giving a regular speech, I probably would have written it down. And in hindsight, I probably should have, but just so I could remember, because I did leave out a couple things I wanted to say. But Yeah, I was a little nervous on because I know I'm not as good of a speaker as both KJ and
Sir, you're an award-winning
Jerry.
podcast host. I don't know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah, what are you talking about? Well, okay, so I want to get to that, but before we get to the acceptance, Nathan, I guess that was a better way of framing the question of like not necessarily the acceptances, but what part of the gala did you really enjoy or that stood out to you, like the opening ceremony for KJ?
yeah, exactly what KJ said. Seeing the drums, I have never seen those drums before in like the Korean style. I do remember seeing that in the BTS music video that we talked about, where they played in the village and everything. And I just thought that was really cool because I was like, and I made a comment to KJ, I was like, "Oh, these are
BTS song."
it's
I think it's like a solo song.
It's a solo song from
one of the members.
From
The song is
Jin.
Jitang.
But
Just Army, don't come for us.
Okay.
We know what we're talking about a little bit.
it was a similar song.
Baby Army status.
Yeah, I know. But it was a good song. And I just remember hearing the drums and thinking, oh, now here it is in person. I think drums are powerful. I definitely they're loud, so they have to be powerful in a way, I feel. But seeing them in person is always a good thing. I had the Japanese version of the drums, the taiko drums, for my wedding. And the same thing. Half my Caucasian family that was there had never heard them, whereas my wife's Japanese side of the family had heard them probably every year, at the festivals that they go to. So for my family, they were just like, "Whoa, that's really intense
so
and
cultural,
crazy."
so
Yeah,
diverse.
exactly. But that is how I felt. I felt the same way, even seeing the Korean ones. I was like, I've never heard it and seen it, but yet watching them perform it, and it's really cool to see.
But definitely wish I could have been there for that. So I want to get into now the acceptance because now I'm going to come in and chime in with my perspective. So as you probably guessed, listener, or if you were just follow us on Instagram, I was not there. I could not go, unfortunately. I was there in Photoshop.
And via YouTube.
I'm glad because KJ and Nathan both sent me the link to the live stream. So I was like, oh, nice. I can actually watch and not have to watch the replay. So I got in with the two people that were going before, and Connie from AAJA. When she went, I was feeling the same thing, felt like this is a great speech. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we got to go after her. I was like, all right, here we go. And then I thought what made me laugh the hardest was, I don't know if they ended up playing, we made a video before, and I don't know if they ended up playing it, but on the live stream, they were having a lot of technical difficulties with it playing. And all I could think to myself was, this is classic us. Like, we have technical difficulties all the time. Of course, this is what's happening. And that made me laugh. And then you guys got up there, and Nathan, I'm going to give you props because you went first. So you kind of set KJ up for success with his. And I was wondering, did we write anything down? Did we do any writing? No, totally freestyle off the cuff. I could tell that you were nervous, but I thought you set the table well for what both KJ and Jerry ended up saying. What was running through your mind as you got up to the stage?
First thing was, wow, these lights are bright. Because I'm not used to being on stage in front of 200 people, and if I'm ever talking in front of people, it's not with lights blaring in your face. It's just in a conference room or stage with where you can see the people. But this is on stage, lights are like shining at you. In my mind, I'm also thinking, okay, start with a joke and things like that. And so, I actually started with my joke about being nervous with the microphone. I had planned on saying that, but I don't even know how well it came off. Just
It got a polite chuckle.
It got a polite chuckle, exactly. I felt that was okay. But for the most part, yeah, I was nervous. I just wanted to say my part, which was thank you to everybody. And I did want to throw in a few extra things. I didn't want to just say thanks and hand it off. So, but yeah, I knew I wouldn't be able to say anything longer because I'd either start rambling and lose what I was focused on saying. And so that's why once I got to the point where I started to feel like I was losing track of what I was supposed to say, that's when I handed it off. So I gave it to KJ, and I have to say, I almost said, and I was going to say it, I was like, no, let me hand it off to the more eloquent KJ.
I could tell that you wanted to say that from the live stream, from my perspective on my couch. I could tell that you wanted to say that.
I
did. You're usually behind the camera, behind the lights. So I totally get the nerves there and commend you for even going first. And then handing it off to KJ, who literally almost brought the house down. I felt like when you greeted everyone with the annyeonghaseyo. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it sounded like from your perspective, but from on the live stream, like the loud cheers. I was like,
he got claps and he got it was almost like
KJ
it was like
gave us so much more validity. Just earned us a ton of brownie points with the Korean American community.
Kimchi points?
and they were like, I don't know if they were just happy to hear it or if they were surprised that he said it so well.
I don't. I
but
was
it
like,
was
classic, and
that
then
was good.
Cheers, loud cheering, like we just won the Super Bowl. It was incredible. I don't know what.
It did not sound that loud to my ears. Granted, I'm half deaf, but it didn't sound that loud to me on stage. But they seemed excited that I said that. So originally, like throughout the night, I was like working out the Korean, say like 여러분 안녕하세요. 저는 KJ입니다. 하지만 오늘은 저는 강준태입니다. Hello everyone, I'm KJ, but today I'm Kangjuntae. So that's what I was going to say.
Nice.
And then I got up there and I was like, I don't know. Because, and this is just like a weird quirk, like, because I don't practice my Korean enough. I'm not super familiar or as familiar as I'd like to be with like, however, but, and like those kinds of like conjunctory words and phrases. And there's like lots of different ways to say almost the same thing in Korean. So I was like, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm going to do it. Plus, like, there's the whole like conjugation issue. Like, this is like the most formal thing. So like later in the night, the other like Korean speakers would say like, 안녕히 계십니까, which is like the very formal greetings, everyone. And I was like, I knew that. I've watched enough K-dramas to know that. And I just went with the casual 안녕하세요. Like, we're all friends. That's fine. So
They still loved it.
Yeah. But I actually had basically the same thought process of Nathan, of like, okay, I've got some things I want to say, and then I don't know that I said them as well as I would have liked, and now I feel myself starting to spiral, so I'm gonna pass it off to Jerry.
I thought you crushed it, to be honest.
I did too.
I mean, you always do. Like at the live show, you saved me when I was trying to explain what Jung was, and now not that you had to save Nathan, but you just came in, you're batting second, and not only did you get on base, you scored. Because I thought you really built off of what Connie had said before, and I thought that was really good, honestly, that she had went, because she's like a staple in the Korean American community and is talking about, you know, what it means to walk in solidarity and like recognize the different parts of our community. And I thought you kind of elaborated on that a lot just from our perspective as adoptees.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I guess I wish I had more time to get into, knowing the audience and knowing some of the greater context of like, especially first gen or even native Koreans, but first gen Korean Americans, like knowing about adoptees, but not really knowing what to do with us. Right. So like the theme of the event is we are here for you or something like that. We are with you. And so, right, like kind of before all the awards, they showed this documentary summary of what KAFLA had been up to for the past 2 years. And James, the president of KAFLA, said, he was like, this is the first time, maybe not the first time, but like it was so easy to know what our community needed because the need was so like apparent and real and like urgent and, you know, all those things. Whereas before, like it's kind of hard to get people involved, or maybe it's hard to like know what everybody wants. But here it's like, no, we need like financial support. We need like to know where to go to get vaccines. We need to know like, you know, if we're undocumented, like how can we get all these things? And so he was just like, yeah, I mean, the need was so clear. And we wanted to like, it was very easy then for us to support our community. But as adoptees, I think there's kind of a similar reckoning that we all came through. And Patrick, you said like, this is a renaissance of adoptee voices. But I think like it's because of 2020 and everything that happened. And so as Korean adoptees in that space, I was like, as a show, trying our best to support our community in the same way that KAFLA was out there in the streets supporting our community, you know, but from a very different perspective. And so that's what it meant when like two sides of the same coin is like, we're all working our way to figure out this intersectional identities of Korean American and Korean American, you know, but coming at it from such a different place, because like I think in light of all of the violence against Asians and in America and things and all the hate crimes and things, like Koreans are like, wait, we're American, we need to speak up, and at the same time, adoptees are like, wait, we're Korean, we need to speak up. And so just like trying to find our ways to each other and what all that means was like really what I wish that I could have impressed upon the community there. And I did not have the time or like my thoughts together enough to really explain that. But I don't think I also realized the other journey that the Korean American community in LA was going through until I had heard James or Connie or whomever, speak to those things. And so yeah, I was just grateful to be there and hear all of that and then be like, oh, this is what I can say.
Yeah. Well, and two, like you said, you're there to not only do you get to experience more and more of like what's happening in that even specific sect of the Korean American community, but adding our voices to that, and not as us being like the voices of the Korean adoptee community, but as 3 voices or even 2 voices, because I was not there. Just showing and sharing like, hey, we are also a part of this community, and it's nice to be validated and seen in this way. And I think it'd be remiss to not mention you passing the mic to Jerry, who truly was the person who had the audacity to start all of this in the first place. And I think when he was speaking, it made me think of, I had a conversation maybe 3 months into the show with someone, another Korean adoptee, and they asked me, is it really necessary for Jerry to be the producer of the show? Like as a non-adopted person, what his role is it that important? And at the time I said yes. And I think I said it was really important because what I've learned a lot about the community is that not only do we have to support each other, but we need allies outside of it. And we need to have people who support us in that way. And Jerry has 100% been that person, because not only did he support us to tell our own stories on his show, but he also supported us in the sense that he's like, hey, I think what you guys are sharing is really important, and I think you could all share together, and I will support you in doing that. And so we would never have gotten this award had it not been for Jerry. We would not even be doing this podcast and sharing other people's stories had it not been for Jerry. Had it not been for a non-adopted Korean American person to step up to the plate and say, hey, I want to help and support this part of our community however I can. And we're just really fortunate and privileged to know that he has the ability to start shows and do that kind of thing and provide that type of resource. And I think I always think back about how I always think a lot about how all of this started and how all of this kind of came together. And at the end of the day, while it is our stories that kind of tied it in, like Jerry is a foundational piece of the show. If people don't know that because he doesn't ever speak on the show and because he does all the behind the scenes stuff and does his own show.
He speaks when there's alcohol.
That's true. That is very true. If there's alcohol or even alcohol adjacent conversation, he's like, well, wait a minute. Let me hop in here.
Hold on.
But for any listener, for any listener who doesn't know that we have this additional support, I think I just want to shout Jerry out and just let him know that, I really appreciate all the opportunities he's given us, because, and I think this is all fresh in my mind because I had a podcast episode that I did on another show, an interview come out, and we were shouting out Jerry, and I was saying the same thing. They asked me, yeah, no, it's fine. But they asked me who was my AAPI role model. And even 11 months ago, I said it was Jerry, because he not only pushed me to do this, but he's helped me not come out of my shell and then also find like the worth in myself, like find value in myself, something I've never been able to do. And so, yeah, I mean, that was just a big Jerry hype train. I'm sorry, I just spoke for probably 3 straight minutes, but I just feel like it's important to acknowledge. I think it's an important thing to acknowledge in light of this award as well.
And I'm really happy that he did actually come up on stage with us, and that it wasn't just going to be KJ and I saying thank you to everybody and thank you to our producer, Jerry. For him to be up there with us, I think I called him when we were just during the day, I remember making a comment. It's like, yeah, you were kind of the glue. You were the foundation and the glue that's kind of kept the Janchi Show going, started it, helped us, stay together and put us on a direction. But then he's also the bridge to the Korean American community. He's up there, and he was, kind of bridging that adoptee over to that side, and which, again, it was very apparent, because when we were there at the gala, we were meeting all of these more, first generation Korean Americans and talking to them about our show and about who we are. And there was the very standard amount of questions of them, kind of like almost like how Jerry had at the beginning. It's like, we look like him, but yet we didn't have the same experience, the cultural upbringing. And it's kind of sometimes surprising, I think, when we do meet somebody. And so to talk with other Korean Americans and explain a little bit more about us is, I think, half the reason why we do this show is because we're trying to get our voice out and, get our stories out and explain to other people, like, this is who we are. We may look like you, but it's different. And, thank you for listening. So I was really appreciative as well that Jerry has been with us this entire time, and also that he was up there on stage.
He's a cool guy, and he could have jumped ship a long time ago, or jumped the shark, jumped ship a long time ago, but
Jump the shark.
Yeah, jumped the shark. Isn't that a
Right,
thing?
the shark.
Yeah, but that's like when you, that's like a Hollywood term for like when you've gone beyond reality into just like straight zaniness.
Well, cut that up.
I'm not going to cut that, just like I didn't cut your dumb Ender's Game reference.
and it's made such an impact that you brought it up in a separate episode. So totally worth it. Totally worth the original reference.
It's just ridiculous. So the other thing too is like, I don't know, Patrick, if your conversation was with an adoptee about like whether or not you need Jerry, but I think like that's kind of the weirdness of being, especially for the three of us, being raised by white parents in America, is like, well, no, you don't need anyone. You can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do the thing. Like that idea that America is an equal meritocracy, or the idea that like the world that we live in is like, no, just be an individual and do your thing and whatever. But like, also as people of color, as minorities in America, like Koreans make up like 2% of the population. Like, I mean, we're Asian Americans are growing, but like Korean Americans are 2% of that. And I don't know, but like, so demographically, like we're still a really small group, and like to assume that we could do anything and everything that we want to do for our community without the help of allies is absurd. Like we literally don't have the numbers to do that on our own. And so we need allies, whether they are white people or black people or Latine people or other Koreans,
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing that was really insightful that Jerry said maybe later in the evening from his own experience is like, it only takes one Korean to speak to a Korean adoptee and be like, hey, you're enough. Come alongside me and let's learn together, for that Korean adoptee to be like, okay. Like,
yeah,
the simple phrase of acceptance and like, let's learn together is massive, like literally life-changing, like can change the trajectory of an adoptee's life and how they think about themselves and how they like understand their Koreanness, and like, I think his thing's like, most Korean Americans don't understand that simple act of kindness and like that jong, if you will, or the welcoming back into the community is enough to rebuild the bridge. And I think that that's so profound. And so to have Jerry, who has been a long time advocate for adoptees and like, especially Korean adoptees, like getting them back into the fold of the greater Korean Americana, is so important. And so I can't think of anyone better to have like added visually and emotionally that intersectionality when we accepted the award, because like it only takes one. And for us, Jerry has been that one in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
And so to encourage our people to embrace adoptees again and to say like, yeah, you're enough, come alongside us, like learn from us, learn with us, it like was so profound. So really grateful for that and for his insight, I guess, into that reality.
Yeah, 100%. Jerry, next time I see him, kissing you right on the top of the head. I hope you know
Wow.
that.
And again, really, really thankful to KAFLA for even recognizing us. I mean, I know they didn't really know much about us prior to us hosting our live show at their facility, but then going full steam ahead and saying let's find out about these guys, going to the board of directors, and then presenting us with this award. I really appreciate that for many reasons, and really, really honored to have been there and to have received it. And I will be sending it to you, Patrick. I know we had a little mini fake vote on the on the channel, but
Yeah, I was blacked out. I don't remember.
yeah, I'm gonna. You're not on Facebook, so there was a little vote on Facebook, and actually, you didn't win. KJ won, but I'm still sending it to you.
Oh wow! Just
Why did I win?
I don't
putting
know.
everyone on putting the entire after
People,
party
here's the
on
deal.
blast.
I don't have
Your
any
votes don't
place to
matter.
put that thing.
Yeah, you were like traveling. KJ didn't have space in his suitcase, and so I also wanted to take a photo of it, and then we can put it on a picture of it on the website or something. But I'll take a photo of it, and then I'm going to send it off to you, Patrick, and then maybe we'll pass it around. I don't know. Just don't break it, because I'm worried that every 5 seconds I touch it. So that thing is
No promises.
heavy and fragile. My kids, if they get to it, it's over.
Well, you know what else is over? This episode. I'm just kidding. I mean, we're not doing
No.
a food, but
No.
before we wrap this up, I did just want to also shout out James on, as KJ mentioned, the president of KAFLA. He is a friend of Jerry's, and he was the person who opened the office up when we went out there in June to do the live show. And like you said, when he heard after the show, he was like, I really appreciate you guys sharing, because he's like, he wasn't fully aware of kind of our experiences, different experiences and things. And this award also would not be possible without a relationship like that. So
Yeah.
James,
Well,
if
and I
you're
think-
listening to this episode, thank you.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting too is like when I think of LA, I think of like a huge Korean American hub,
Mhm.
but there aren't that many Korean adoptees necessarily in LA. I don't remember who
Sure.
I was talking to, but they're like, "Where are all the Korean adoptees?" Like, I don't know that I've really met any. I'm like,
Mhm.
they're all in the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not that we're all in the Midwest. There obviously are a lot of us up in Minnesota. That's the Lake State, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great.
You got
I
it.
always get Minnesota and Michigan confused. Don't come after me. I'm just bad at geography.
There are a lot of adoptees in Michigan too.
Yeah.
Say
So, but
both.
I mean, yeah, like they're just like, I don't know, like anecdotally, they seem to be all in the Midwest or on the Eastern Seaboard, which like I know there's probably a strong Korean adoptee or Korean American community like in New York, but I mean, New York is one, like, so it's hard. And if you're not in that area, it can feel like, I mean, we know that adoptees exist, but really
Right.
where, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, we're literally nowhere near you. And like,
And
yeah,
yet
so
we're
it's just-
everywhere.
yeah. So it's a whole thing. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. But no, there
I
are
lost
some. I mean, there are some adoption groups out there. Korean. I mean, I ran into them when I was out there, but I didn't feel like it was apparent, like you were saying, because
Mhm.
that isn't apparent. Knowing that we are not a Korean adoptee is one of the first things people come up. Oh, you're Korean or you're Asian, if they don't know. But there's no way that anyone would just instantly guess, oh, you're a Korean adoptee, and that's something that I think we've talked about on the show and talked about just in general. So even though there's a lot of Asians in California, there may be a lot that that are adoptees, but unless you come out, shooting, I'm an adoptee, you're not going to know.
I
You're
have
shooting
definitely
it
done
out.
that in a couple Korean restaurants, even here. Like I'll say, thank you in Korean, or can I have this? Whatever, I'll order in Korean because I'm very dangerous in restaurants. That's about as good as my Korean is right now.
Nice.
And they'll be like, "Oh, you're Korean? Do you speak Korean?" And be like, "Oh, no, 저는 입양이입니다." I'm like, "I'm an adoptee," and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like,
Yeah.
they're like, "Don't get any ideas. I'm not that good at Korean, but I am an adoptee. So I look like you, and I'm different than you. So
We're
Yeah.
different.
we are diferente."
We
But
are
somos
different.
Diferente. That's it.
Thank you to anyone who watched the show, for everyone who liked the posts and gave us some comments about. I've been getting some texts and stuff like that. Congratulations! So yes, thank you to everybody again for all of the support.
Where can they
for our
find
show.
and send us support at?
If you need more places to give us support, because you're bored and you got a couple extra, seconds, but please leave us reviews on iTunes, podcasts or Apple Podcasts. You can, listen to us on all the places, where you can listen to us. And then, of course, you can email us at janchishow@justlikemedia.com. And you can join our Facebook. We got our podcast after party Facebook group there. So if you're on Facebook, unlike Patrick, you can interact with KJ and I. And it is the after party.
Yeah, and if you are so inclined and want to help us keep the lights on and support us financially, you can go to janchishow.com/support to do so. Or if you want to do that and also get a little something for yourself, we got swag. That's all at janchishow.com. Patrick, do you want to plug that thing that you were doing? That new episode that just dropped?
Oh, I was like, what? Which thing?
Because Patrick has so many things. Just one of the many things that you're doing. How about?
Yeah, you can hear Patrick in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was in February. I did an interview with Emily Villaverde and Zach Ing, the hosts of the Situation Room. And Jerry was a guest on that show and connected us, and that was really fun. It was that episode just came out on Monday of this week. You can get that wherever you listen to your podcasts. I had a really great time on that show. Emily and Zach are great. And also, it was interesting to listen back on what kind of language and terminology I was using to talk about it. I think
if it was back in February, it must have changed a lot, right?
Most of everything, you can definitely tell it was pre-Atlanta. Like, I'll say that. Yeah, very interesting. I think, for the most part, holds up from where I still am, but I would say that I've changed a little bit in some of the things that I spoke about. So I'm going to address that later on social media, I think. But yeah, you can listen to that. I've got a bunch of other things coming up that I want to announce. One specifically around the Adoptee Citizenship Act. If that's something you're interested in, send me a DM. Just let me know that you're interested in potentially working on something like that. That would be great. You can do that at Patrick in the World on Instagram. I also updated my website to be more of a personal CV resume style site as opposed to
personal CV. What a European.
I don't know. That's just what it says on Squarespace.
CV is like a English, like European term.
Well, that makes sense because all I speak is English.
His last name is Armstrong.
No, I meant like Anglo-English.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Like British.
I don't know why I did that either.
British.
I don't remember what I was going to say. Okay. What about you guys? Do you want
you can find me at Nowalk on Instagram.
You can find me at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet. And also, because of the technical difficulties, and also if you just weren't there, and also because I'm proud of it, you can watch the video that did not fire when it was supposed to during the KAFLA event on our YouTube, which is probably just at Janchi Show. So yeah, that'll be dropping at the same time as the episode drops.
Man, I had something else I wanted to say. I really, really just forgot though.
That's
classic. That is straight up classic.
Patrick.
Classic Patrick. And this has been another episode of Classic Patrick. Yep, that's it.
Yep,
we
that's
will
it.
be
Bye.
back next Wednesday with another new episode.
Hooray.
Oh, next Wednesday's episode is going to be great too. All right, leave you on with that spoiler. Goodbye.
Janchi heyo.
Bye-bye.
What was I going to say? This is me off.